YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host TKK and we are back with another video, guys. Today we're going to be discussing the Hisense UK7 4K television. This TV is a mini LED TV that I have recently started featuring on the channel. This is my first ever Hisense, and so I want to review it today in the space of talking about video content. Now, we watched an episode of The Blacklist. This is a show that I've watched and, I kind of fell off of it. And so I'm starting back up. Season 7 was where I concluded time ago, some years ago. And now I've recently picked back up on season 8. So we reviewed this TV in the space of me moving around some content in my living room. I got this TV, as I said, in 55 inch. And so the space that I have where this TV's position is traditionally where I have like my 77 inches, right? To give you just context for the future, we're going to have the Sony A95L and 77 inch. Prior to that, we had the S95C and so forth. That's all been featured on the channel. But in any event, I decided to move my seating to be a little bit closer to this television, right? It's a pretty narrow, but, long room that I've got it set in. And, I wanted to make sure that I captured this television in the essence of me watching media in two different spaces. I wanted to focus on being able to sit at like the left of the TV just to catch the viewing angles, because up to this point, I've determined that it just doesn't have great viewing angles. And I wanted to get center mass with it, but I didn't want to be so far back because it's a 55 inch. I wanted to put myself closer in a position so that, I could really take in the content and the quality of what the TV has to offer. This TV does have a number of different features. So it is a 4K resolution TV. It is what's called a mini LED. So it's got a lot of different zones in which the TV can produce a level of brightness or some dark scenes, right? The more zones that the TV has, the more it can articulate the contrast from whatever the creator of the content's intent may be. So it's a pretty good option, and it comes in at a really affordable price, in my opinion. I would consider this to be budget tier TV, but in the mid tier space. Now, there's models above it, and there's a couple of opportunities below it too. But this one is where I landed because the sizing is right for me to be able to create the type of content that I want to. And ultimately, I like to game on these TVs more than anything else. 55 inches, typically the size that I would go for if I was buying something specifically in the space of gaming. However, now I do have a 77 inch S95C that's in front of me as my main gaming TV. I digress. We want to go ahead and get into some of the content where you're going to have myself and Lady Hera mic'd up talking about just like what our viewing experiences were with the TV. The way that I filmed this was I split the episode in half. Literally at the middle of the episode, I switched seatings with her. So I went from me being in the sweet spot to me sitting on the left, from her starting sitting on the left to being in the sweet spot. So we're going to have some transitions with some clips and just some talking points just to let you know what I ultimately thought about this TV. All right, guys. So listen, so change of plans from the prior transition. I said I was going to have a review mate here with me. I'm going to be doing this thing solo, but going forward, I think it's pretty awesome to be able to have more than just one person talking, offering like their perspective of the TV. So first thing I would just want to talk about, like with this television, there just appears to be a little bit of inconsistency. I won't use the term latency, but there's some inconsistency when you're just kind of toggling through different devices, okay? I don't know if it's with using the remote, because I like to use the remote as a pass-through for other devices. So for example, I have an Apple TV loaded. This is the device that I use in this space. So I don't use Fire Stick. I don't like to really have to use the different integrated applications from the different operating systems, because all of these TVs have different OS, right? But using this remote, sometimes like going left, right is great, but sometimes it kind of gets hung up. And I talked about this on my initial impressions of this TV, right? Not the biggest deal breaker, but sometimes we're just going like left or right, it'll freeze and you'll hit left or right like 5 times, and then at one time it'll just kind of burst you know, so it'll take a moment to kind of burst to the left or the right, like as if it's just storing the inputs. All right, moving past there, I just want to give a moment of this video to acknowledge Clark Middleton. I was not aware that this actor had passed. I'm not really sure how, but as I said in the earlier sequences of this video, I watched Blacklist. I got up to season 7, took a break. I'm a binge watcher. So when I get too invested and then I have to wait like week to week for an episode, I really hate that. I have like this, you know, separation anxiety type of thing going on. So I'd rather let content kind of like stockpile and then I can just jump back into it. So a little disheartening coming back into this season 8. Did get to see him, you know, perform in, I believe it was episode 2 of this season, where he was actually, you know, just kind of had a little torture scene going on with one of Reddington's employees. In any event, I digress. Much respects. Just offered great supporting cast to Reddington's team in this show. So I just wanted to pay some respects there. All right, that being said, guys, I'm using PLEX. I think it's important to just, you know, have the talking points of what I'm using. I'm not using a Blu-ray player or anything like that. Obviously, that's going to be the highest fidelity that, you know, opportunity you can have next to like the Kaleidoscape, that digital platform. I am using PLEX. I have a dedicated computer that has about 150 terabytes of different types of content, TV shows and movies specifically, right? I get my content, stockpile it, get it there, and then it streams out. And so, you know, earlier in the video, I showed when I started talking about Blacklist, I was just kind of taking you to some of the technical specs of it. I think this is important to discuss when talking about movie content, as I'm not just playing demo stuff. So I'm not just running in built-in demos or downloaded demos from a USB drive. Like, this is real-time stuff. This is how I realistically use this, which is why I wanted this review to be, you know, made after I got finished watching an episode. I am going back down the rabbit hole of right there, this TV just froze up. So a transition or two ago, I was just talking about this thing. Like, I'm going to use the term lagging. It just hangs up. I'm not a fan of that with this TV, but I'm watching the Gargoyles again, but I'm kind of hooked onto Blacklist, currently on episode 9 after reviewing episode 7 with you guys, right? Well, that's what we're doing here today. So let's get into one other issue that I had with the TV.
Because it was made on a satellite phone and we kept...
All right, so I don't know how much of this content I can show. I just recorded that, but this TV, I'm having like some audio delay issues with. As I was reviewing this, you know, I just merely plugged in my audio return channel from my receiver. And, you know, initially when I started doing those impressions of this TV, you know, it was with the PC, the home theater PC build that I featured. If you've seen the initial impressions, you know, and then we did the Starfield video content, you know, and then we just kind of, you know, went from there. And I've had no issues. This is the first time that I've tried to like intimately watch some content, and the delay is unbearable, right? The TV does have a couple of setting options that you can dive into. So you start by hitting settings. You're going to go to settings. After you go to settings, you go down to, sorry, forgive me. You're going to go to display and sounds. You're going to go audio output. And at this point, now the delay is fixed. I put it on 4. The problem that I'm really dealing with is every time I turn the TV off and turn it back on, the delay is there. It's like only when I go to this part of the screen, you notice it black out and then it comes back. It kind of adjusts itself. So I messed around with a couple of different numbers. When I got to 4 for digital audio delay, it just appears to, it works better. It's not perfect, but I'm not sure. This is the only TV I've ever had this issue with. I've never really had audio delay issues with anything else, but that's just something that I wanted to point out in my experience. So I did mention that I'm using an Apple TV. And so another issue I was dealing with is about 20% into this episode, there was a pretty consistent dropout of audio. Again, you know, it was just, it was not like a long thing, but just kind of like a millisecond where it would cut in, cut out, cut in, cut out. And so, you know, I just played around with some settings within the actual Apple TV, and I had the format automatically went 4K Dolby Vision, as this TV does. And so when I switched this to SDR, you know, it fixed that, right? It fixed it. I mean, the content that I was watching was not Dolby Vision. I do have the Apple TV set to mimic whatever the content it is. I like to have the stuff set to play in whatever the original format is, but that was something that I noticed I was having a problem with. I don't know if it was because the player was trying to force upscale the content in Dolby Vision. I do notice that there was some artificial brightness added to it, the picture overall, but you know, it was causing an issue. I assume it was because as soon as I went to SDR, I didn't have that issue at all. And so I was just, it was killing me as I'm reviewing this thing, watching this episode, you know, having this cutout issue. So I just wanted to bring these different things to the forefront as my experience. All right, man. So let's just get into talking about this. I want to monetize this video. This is a business platform. So, you know, I'm trying to get what I can off of this, but I want to be able to bring you guys the real deal on what my experiences were like watching this episode. It was pretty great. You know, I had this thought in my mind that I wanted to do a review on this TV after watching live content, and I needed to bring you guys some realistic talking points. We know that I've been covering OLEDs on this channel for the last two and a half years when we started, you know, to make this kind of technology content. So the LED space is something new for me, and it's new for me bringing it to you guys. So I binge watched, got into some episodes, watched some stuff on some A95K in my bedroom, watched some stuff on some G2 in the dining room and so forth. And so I was like, you know, after watching, you know, this content, right, coming back to this, getting infused back into the story and the lore of Blacklist, I wanted to be able to watch an episode on this that I was anticipating. So there's some great things happening in this show right now at this point that's got me engaged, and I'm off today as I'm filming this portion of this content. So I'm going to probably pop like 5-6 episodes, right? I digress. Looking at this from the center mass, this was a great experience. Up to this point, watching it, we're just a couple of minutes into the episode, and you know, I was just enjoying it. I pulled the seat up, and I'm just like, damn, the colors look pretty well. Now, I did tune in some settings to this TV. I'm not going to go into like all the exact settings that I did, but I did turn down some of the illumination from the LEDs on the panel. You know, this show is not, I'm not going to say it's a dark show, but it's kind of monotone when it comes down to blacks. There's nothing that you just really have to see, right? It's just regular content. It's not like horrific or anything like that. But the skin tones and such look pretty good. I've got the color set at about like a 43, you know, just because I just like the stuff to look real, right? So when a person is like a Caucasian descent, like I like to see the skin look the way that it does, right? So from the center mass piece, it was looking pretty damn good. I gotta admit, like I said, I don't have my review partner here to speak about their perspective on the left, but that's why I filmed it the way that I did, so that I'd be able to talk to you guys about like the left and, you know, looking at the angle too. All right, so like right here, right? Like I said, this content isn't too crazy. I'm not sure what they're doing with the shot right here, you know, but this area right here is just nice and blacked out. It's like in my opinion, the director probably wanted you to just focus really hard on Raymond's face. And his face looks pretty good to me. I like just everything that I'm seeing. You know, nice detail here. This right here is probably Harold. I think this is the other character, his name. It's maybe a shadow casting. But man, sweet spot. This looked pretty good. Just this conversation that they were having had a nice musical soundtrack. So I mean, it just had me really relaxed, paying attention to the details of what they were talking about. But the picture quality was really nice. I could discern the differences in, like, you know, the color. He's got like this brownish pea coat on, really nice. Ties into the contrast of his actual tie, you know, like this. When I say ties in, like this color blends with that color. So great separation of everything, even his eyes. I mean, like everything looks really good. Not OLED-ish, but, you know, great quality for what you get for the money on this TV. So red is a big color to me. It's my favorite color, right? And right here we get a nice bit of red into Harold's tie. You know, I mean, everything, like I said, looks really good. The separations of colors are nice. He's got like this pinstripe suit. Looks like it's a reddish color that ties into that. Listen, whoever dressed these men in this scene, like, they did a great job. They did a really good job. I love the way that this American flag pin is popping. You know, I can see the blue there, the white, the red contrast. Everything is just really good. Skin tones look pretty nice. You know, Raymond and Harold, obviously two different ethnicities. They don't look the same. The skin tone doesn't look the same. This just a great representation of everything that I've seen so far up to this point looking at this. All right, and then we bring in Dembe. Dembe is an African I'm gonna say African American. I'm not sure exactly, so forgive my ignorance there. But he's a dark-skinned brother, right? So now we've got Caucasian gentlemen. We've got Harold, who I believe is African American also. He's more of what I call you like light skin, kind of like myself. And then Dembe, he's more of a dark-skinned brother, bald head. But again, none of their skin tone looks the same. So what I'm saying is I think that this TV does a pretty darn good job of representing skin tones and colors. Great contrast. Again, this content is being streamed, so not the highest bit rate of what you could see if you were looking at it from like, let's say a Blu-ray or DVD or something like that. But this is all really good content, especially for me to be moving my seat up. I kind of tried to shoot some B-roll to show you guys having my seat further back than moved up. If you didn't catch that and you kind of zoom here, try to go back, watch the video. I'm putting a little bit of time into this one to kind of explain things. And then again, the colors don't seem to fade out with Dembe's coat. I'm able to discern like what he's got on. His coat's kind of like a dark color. It's like a dark olive, if you will, but looks pretty good in person. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this is a point and shoot Sony camera is going to pick this up. This is being shot in 4K at 30 frames per second, but everything looks pretty good, even down to the illumination of this light right here. Right. I mean, just this light doesn't look the same as those light. So it doesn't look artificial. It looks purposeful. Right. The closer you are to this light, it does look brighter. Those lights back there don't seem to give off the same bit of illumination. Neither does this too. Right. So I think this shot is very purposeful and the TV does a great job. Even the low illumination of the phone. This is a flip phone that's used right here. It's kind of got like this bluish look to it, man. So, I mean, this is I think that this TV is very purposeful in the space of giving you the right type of colors that you would get. Because when you look at things like cell phones, you do get like a really blue hue over to them, right? And so your light here is different light. Your light here is the same light as this color, but this light right here I can tell is a white. So, I mean, I'm just trying to give it to you the way I'm seeing it. It looks pretty darn good. Let's talk about the angles.
God, there you are. Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you.
All right, guys. So here we are. We're at an angle. Now, listen, I've got you guys at the right angle, but you're literally about kind of in the opposite direction to where I would be where I was sitting on the left chair. The reason I can't have you on the left is because my left couch is wider than my right couch, which I'm able to have you guys here. So let's talk about my experience from being at an angle. Now, as I'm talking to you guys, I'm using a wireless mic, but I'm sitting on the left side where I would be. And the thing that I'm going to tell you is that while I don't think this TV has great viewing angles, the viewing angles and watching film content, or I'll classify this as film content, it looks better than it does when you're playing a video game. Okay. When you're playing a video game, you want things to pop, you want things to be bright. So film content, in my opinion, looks better from a viewing angle perspective. I also did turn down the backlight system a little bit. There's just no reason for me to have the whole light cannon effect up, but I did have it up equal to what I did have it in the initial impressions and the Starfield video, just so that I could be able to gauge and make that decision on what would be better for me. I turned it down for this because I wanted to just do a quick soft calibration to modify the way that I think the TV needs to look. So I picked this particular scene to kind of to freeze on because it's more brighter. And again, we're able to just, look at different colors and things of that sort, right? Looking at this TV from an angle, because this content is streamed, I can see some pixelation. I'll tell you that. That is not something that I seen when I was in the middle of the TV, right? So where I just had you guys in a prior transition versus to where you are now in real time, in real person. Of course, the camera's not going to pick it all up. There's more pixelation that I can see. it looks like I'm streaming the content from an angle. And that's a little bit disappointing. Now, this TV is in 55-inch, but the seating arrangement is pretty perfect from where I moved the TV in the center and to where I was sitting on the left. I'm only just a few feet away from it. If you're using the science of 1 foot, 10 inches, etc., things are pretty spot on. But that's immediately what I noticed. I looked at it from the side and I said, damn, I can definitely tell that I'm streaming. It's just that the content just doesn't look as tight in many areas. And by the way, this is streaming at about 12 to 13 megabytes per second. It's 1080p content. So it's pretty average stuff, right? Nothing too over the top. Like I said, it's not Blu-ray or Kaleidoscope, but it kind of is what it is. But there's just some quality lost kind of in the center. This whole door, it being brown. Like the closer I get up to it from a side, this just looks really washed away. It just, the quality just isn't there. The further I get to the TV, and now I'm moving around as I'm talking to you guys. What do you mean by that? It looks more cleaner, right? So going to this transition here, there's a lot of brightness, a lot of whites, some nice illumination, sun's coming in, hitting right here. Things look pretty good. It's the same though at the side. It just looks like, I can tell that the content is being streamed and that it's just not really tight, right? So the center just kind of, it masks a lot of those opportunities that the TV has. I'm not sure if it's the LEDs or what. I don't know how to articulate that, but it looks a lot better in the center. And this is what I was saying to you guys in my initial impressions. If you have this thing set up, you'd want to get this as far away as possible for you. So what I'm saying is, like, the way that I have this TV positioned, it's a couple of feet in front of the wall, versus if it was actually on the wall, it might look better, but then pushing the picture away from you further. So I don't know. This TV just looks better in the center than it does on the side, and that's just a fact. Nobody can. All right, guys, ultimately, I enjoyed this content. I enjoyed making this, and I enjoyed watching this TV. So much to the point where, I actually watched episode 8, whatever episode I was, just showing you guys. I watched the one after also. It was pretty enjoyable. Definitely a sweet spot situation. And I left I actually had dinner and left my couch pulled up as I watched the following episode. After that, I went back to the bedroom, watched the A95K, and it obviously was just like a night and day type of situation. But that's a larger TV. It's a QD OLED, and I'm actually further away. I have a king size bed, so when I'm watching TV, my TV is probably 20 feet from where I am laying at night with the A95K. But still, I'm able to see the difference in detail, man. Let me tell you, it's different. But for this TV, it's pretty nice option. I enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to watching more content. Now, this is going to transition to us talking about the Q7 from TCL. I do also have that TV in my collection right now, so I'm kind of going back and forth with this. But I thought it was important for me to be able to bring you some realistic, review content for me actually watching something and not just playing video games. I'm getting myself set up so next year we'll have a much more fluid experience when we're pushing the content out there. But I want to know what you guys thought. Leave me something in the comment section. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next video. Peace, God bless, and as I always say, man, max love.